that Nigeria has become. We've been pointing to the lies and propaganda being told of a Lagos that has been built and that will be replicated at the federal level. They'll point at some moribund rail lines. Let's talk about that. 16 or 17 years at God knows how much inflated cost they built the blue line. They're talking about a red line now. Question is, how much of that red line actually belongs to the federal government? How much of it was built by Lagos State government? At what cost? Fact of the matter is that if we actually look to the evidences of our eyes and we look to what we see within the state that the man has superintended for over 20 years in one form or the other, whether as governor or as godfather, reality is that it should tell us that we should expect nothing in Nigeria. And the evidence of the last 9 months are unimpeachable and cannot be denied. I know that the convenient excuse is always that Buhari had damaged it and is repairing it. But who brought Buhari? Who was the chief marketer of Buhari in 2014, 2015 when the change lie was sold to Nigerians? The fact of the matter is that until we all come to the knowledge of the fact that nobody is coming to save us but we ourselves, nothing is going to change. And there is nothing that has been done by this man to suggest that we should expect anything positive. In fact, we should brace ourselves for more to come.
Wow. Well, I mean, Mr. Farotimi, quite a very compelling argument that you put forward there. And I hope as to the questions that you have put out regarding the red rail and the blue rail, that we'll be able to get a little bit more clarity about it. One last question before you go, Mr. Farotimi. So, do you subscribe to any kind of political reforms, that might help the people to get out of what is clearly, something that is not worth the while, based on your description?
Let me tell you this. You can speak to political reforms in a society governed by law and that is rule-based. But this is not that society. What has happened is that with the ascension to office of the man known as Bola Ahmed Tinubu, an INEC that advertised beavers, transmission of election results from the polling unit level, unilaterally turned around and talked about glitches, and the courts decided to be legalistic in interpretation of clear provisions of the Electoral Act. So today, what the courts have said is that the INEC does not have to transmit results electronically. So we are back in a situation where someone like Wike is appointing his person as an INEC commissioner. So we are in a situation where whatever INEC says is the result is the result. And if you are now saying that we should look to reforms, question is, who is to reform our situation? Can we depend on beneficiaries of electoral highs to then reform themselves out of power? It is next to impossible. I have spent my time since after the election seeking to educate the Nigerian people to understand that they are the only ones who can rescue themselves from this mess. Nigeria is already headed almost inexorably towards a catastrophe. But the reality is that if the people are not carefully educated to understand that they are not each other's enemies, that the real enemies of the people are those who have ruined this country and placed us where we are, we will end up in an implosion. I fear that. I run away from that, and I seek to educate the people to understand that Chinedu, Ngozi, Wasiu, Kunle, Nodu, or Aminu, those are not the enemies. The enemies are the beneficiaries of this system. This system has to end one way or the other before Nigeria can be rescued. The beneficiaries of this system, both within and outside Nigeria, are taking too much pleasure and they have no deterrence. They have nothing to gain from reforming it. They've successfully weaponized ignorance and poverty against the people, and they are they are so hard-headed, they cannot even see what is in their own enlightened, selfish interest, and they believe that they can sustain this evil reign. But I know human history has told me that this is not sustainable. My worry is that we don't end up in a cataclysmic situation. That is my sole worry. But to expect any change or self-reform from this system is delusional. It's not going to happen.